Militaries from all around the world develop the very best uniforms, armor, weaponry, and vehicles to keep their troops safe while they fight for their country. The United States alone has spent $718.69 billion on its military. This includes uniforms, tanks, jeeps, and any kind of surveyor or first aid technology. And much of it looks like it came straight from Star Wars or a superhero movie. All that, as evidenced by America's expenditure, doesn't come cheap. Today, we're going to take a look at some of the most expensive military uniforms in the world. Welcome back to our channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll never miss a video. The Chinese military has splashed the cash for their soldiers' effects. It's not nearly as much as America's annual spending, but it's substantial. From rifles to raincoats and helmets, the entire kit for a Chinese soldier comes to $1,523 US. A good chunk of that is just their standard issue Type 95 automatic rifle, a Chinese-made weapon valued at $656. Helmets come in second, with a price of $241. It's quite a basic kit, and relatively inexpensive if you compare it to what most other countries have. The UK Royal Guard is perhaps the most famous of all military personnel in the world, with bright red jackets and big hats. You might think they're there for tourists, but they have an essential job of guarding any residence the Queen is in at the moment. The iconic fuzzy hats are not just for show either. It was adopted in the 17th century, when the gunners in British and French armies wore these enormous bearskin hats so they'd look taller. It was to intimidate their opponents. Now, we're not sure if this tactic will work anymore, but it hasn't stopped the palace from placing orders for these hats. And they don't come cheap. These 18-inch high, 9-pound heavy hats cost approximately $1,178 US in 2008. And that's before the price hike. In 2015, the same hat cost $1,612. That's more than the average Chinese soldier's entire kit. And if you're buying hats for the whole Royal Guard, the total cost definitely runs into millions. In the space of 7 years, the UK spent $1.32 million on just hats. Called Busby hats, these hats are made from the fur of a Canadian black bear. Animal activists have criticized them for still using real black bear fur when the technology today allows for alternatives. But it turns out the British Guard has experimented with synthetic fur, and it just isn't the same. For one, they lose their shape when they're in strong winds, and there are always strong winds in the north. Secondly, they get waterlogged quickly, which is not a problem with black bear fur. But do we still need the hats? Surely the secret is out. Not everyone in the British Army is 6 feet tall. The US Army spent $132 billion between 2002 and 2017 to equip the Afghanistan Army and security forces. But that wasn't the extent of their spending on the mission. Later, John Sopko, a special inspector general, found that the US spent about $28 million more on just the new uniforms. Now, there's nothing wrong with outfitting your best men and women with good uniforms to protect them, but there were some issues with the design. Turns out, the camouflage colors were for woodland areas, and the woodland regions make up only 2.1% of the country, rendering the uniforms pointless and putting the Army in real danger. And if that wasn't enough, the uniforms replaced buttons with zippers, which increased the cost even more. Not all investments have been thought through though, obviously. It isn't just uniforms that the United States spends its billions on. A company called L3Harris Technologies specializes in defense tech, and they brought in a revenue of $17 billion when they teamed up with the US. They created night vision goggle binoculars for the Army attached to the helmet. The headset helps soldiers with imagery and data collected directly from the battlefield and projected onto the goggles. The headset also hooks onto the sights of a soldier's weapon and can increase accuracy in the field, allowing soldiers to attack behind cover. Superhero movies feature some amazing armor. Another defense tech company called Lockheed Martin teamed up with the US Army to create an exoskeleton for soldiers. They called this prototype Iron Man, and while it doesn't share many of the same features, it has the potential to increase mobility and strength on the field by using basic robotics to enhance or multiply whatever movement the soldier is making. That means that if you throw a punch that could lightly bruise somebody, the suit would amplify it and make it so the same punch would go through thick wooden planks. For now, it's being used to lift up heavy equipment, food, and other military supplies, though it could lift up a rocket like it was a shotgun. It basically requires little to no effort to operate this machine. But if you're looking for a working exoskeleton that's closer to the Iron Man suit, you're going to have to look to Russia. While some skeptics have said military exoskeletons will only ever be a thing of science fiction, Russia has come up with a modest but effective solution. Well, we say modest, but a single unit costs over $3,500 US. The suits are called Ratnik. They're easy to wear and can be removed with a quick release button. It can take the load off of a soldier and allow them to carry out prolonged marches and assaults while carrying over 100 pounds. It's still an underpowered suit in development, but incremental improvements are being made, with several hundred sets already in service. Their armor is nowhere near what the US promised, but their attempt at the suit didn't amount to much, while Russia already has its next steps ready. Another Lockheed creation is the Onyx, an exoskeleton for only the lower half of the soldier. It uses sensors in the feet, knees, and hips that are linked to an AI, which can predict the soldier's next movements and adjust accordingly. It can reduce the amount of energy needed to perform a certain task. They got a 2-year contract worth $6.9 million from the US Army in 2018 to develop the Onyx. In Batman Begins, inventor Lucius Fox, played by Morgan Freeman, tells Wayne Enterprises that he's created a prototype body armor for the US infantry that's as light as Kevlar, but just as bulletproof. When Bruce Wayne asks why the US Army didn't put it into production, Fox says that $300 grand was just too expensive for the military. Seeing America's incredible investment in its army, $300,000 doesn't seem completely impossible in real life. Researchers from the Florida Atlantic University are using advanced polymers and carbon nanotubes to create a new kind of body fabric that can be 300% as strong as what we have today and just as light. The lead investigator on the project says that the whole idea of the suit is to absorb the energy and dissipate it very quickly, so it doesn't concentrate and pierce the person inside of it. Wait, isn't that what the Black Panther suit does? The carbon nanotubes used to make the suit are so strong and light that the researchers have talked about how they can play a role in everything from drug delivery to hypersonic weapons. The Combating Terrorism Technical Support Office has provided about $569,000 to develop a unit. Well, I guess the US Army has a smaller budget for suits in the DC universe. So that's Iron Man, Batman, Black Panther. Any other heroes left? Before we tell you, make sure you hit the like button if you're enjoying this video, and put your guess for the 4th superhero-inspired armor in the comments below. We'll wait. The answer is Spider-Man. And that's all the major superheroes covered. Still in its production phase, the Spider-Man boots and gloves were developed with the help of engineers at Cornell University. It's a palm-sized gadget that uses the surface tension in water to make a reverse adhesive bond that sticks to virtually any surface. In 2015, media outlets reported that the UK government was going to outfit the army with Future Soldier Vision. The company developing this signed a deal with the military in 2015 at the cost of around $14.8 million. The Vision is said to modernize the British Army. The kit includes a smartwatch that tracks biometric data and helps in communication on the field. The smart glass attaches to the helmet and provides up-to-date heads-up display on their surroundings, and it also features bone-conducting headphones to protect the ears. There is also a camera through which the commander can get tactical information from the field. And to top it all off, it has sensors to help in survivability and provides situational awareness. The whole unit is more of a computer than a uniform at this point. During the conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan, troops deployed to these areas had 2 different uniform patterns, one for woodland area and one for the desert. Spending that kind of money on different types of uniforms doesn't make sense. So the Universal Camouflage Pattern, or UCP, was created, which would be used in various climates. It has a pixelated design, and the cost of this pattern comes to a whopping $5 billion. And it wasn't even money well spent, because the pattern didn't help soldiers blend into their surroundings. If anything, they just stood out more. Needless to say, it failed. The US Army then began to give their soldiers uniforms with a pattern called multicam, and the UCP was discontinued. After a few months later, the Operational Camouflage Pattern was found, which is still being used by the US today. Today, the average US soldier's full outfit and combat gear cost about $17,500 US, just a bit more than China. Well, a lot more than China. But it's not just the military that gets the perks of tactical gear and wares. In 2020, when protests erupted after the tragedy of George Floyd's murder, gear given to police officers in America were heavily researched and questioned. They all seem to be decked out in military gear and equipped with rubber bullets and tanks. the likes of which you'd seen on the battlefield and not in the streets. Some more digging and researching later, it was revealed that the Department of Defense has been providing local law enforcement across America with second-hand military-grade weapons and vehicles since 1990. However, a third of this equipment sent to these forces actually looked brand new, and the cost of them is reported to be a jaw-dropping $7.4 billion. It seems around 8,000 police forces across the country benefited from this program. And all this makes the American police force and military the most expensively equipped in the world. And those are the most expensive uniforms and equipment in the world. Enjoyed the video? Then you'll like all of the other videos over on our channel. So check them out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.